Welcome back to the FriFunShow. We have, let's get back to the news. In some reaction news, we have the Queen's reaction to the event held for Diamond Jubilee. According to an article from the Press Association, the Queen is to continue to mark her Diamond Jubilee on Tuesday. Let me see. I'm thinking. Tuesday, following 4 days of public celebrations, which she has described as a humbling experience. In a television address on Tuesday, the Queen thanked the nation for organizing and taking part in events to celebrate her 60 years on the throne. The monarch is to sit down at a lunch laid in honor of the anniversary with Commonwealth leaders, including prime ministers, governor generals, and high commission representatives. The Duke of Edinburgh was due to accompany the Queen to the event at Marlborough House on Pall Mall in London, but remains in the hospital under observation for a bladder infection. His youngest son, the Earl of Wessex, Sir Philip, who is 90 years old, is feeling a lot more better. A good rest is probably what is required for him to recover. The lunch follows 4 days of pomp and pageantry, which drew well wishers to London from all over the world. On Tuesday, the Queen set the seal on the celebrations with Buckingham Palace appearance before an estimated crowd of more than 1 million. Surrounded by the Prince of Wales, Duchess of Cornwall, Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, and Prince Harry, she watched a flypast of Second World War aircraft and the Red Arrows. In her broadcast message, the Queen said, "The events that I have attended to mark my Diamond Jubilee have been a humbling experience. It has touched me deeply to see so many thousands of families, neighbors, and friends celebrating together in such a happy atmosphere. I hope that memories of all this year's happy events will brighten our lives for many years to come. I will continue to treasure and draw inspiration from the countless kindness shown to me in the country and throughout the Commonwealth. Thank you all." Tributes has been paid to her throughout last weekend, to be honest, including American President Barack Obama, who has developed a strong bond with the Queen since she was a living witness to the power of alliance between the United Kingdom and the U.S. Prime Minister James Cameron highlighting that the weekend has been an unifying event for the nation, said from his perspective that he really thinks it is the best of Britain. He and the people who seen the event have seen the country come together with a sense of celebration and unity, but also tremendous resilience from people who want to celebrate despite the wear and resilience. Of course, from Her Majesty, nothing stops her doing the job she does. In some interesting space news, the Venus transit took place between Tuesday and Wednesday. People who were lucky enough to get a glance at it were delighted where they posted pictures and videos to the public on the internet. If you weren't able to see it or you want to watch the Venus transit again, it won't happen again until about 105 years later in the year 2117. But you can see some of the pictures and videos in the link below the video. In some news to remember, a passed on, science fiction author Ray Bradbury died a few days ago at the age of 91 as a result of a lengthy illness. According to an article from the Los Angeles Times, it explains a brief information about his life from birth to death, saying, "Like many with a similar tie to the city, he came from somewhere else, Waukegan, Illinois. But it was really after his family moved to California in 1934 that he came into his own. Bradbury developed as a writer there, partly because of the Los Angeles Science Fiction Society, a phenomenal group that counted among its members Robert Heinlein and Forrest J. Ackerman, and Matt Clifton's cafeteria downtown. His love of literature blended well with a healthy fascination with pop culture, and that led him to image a style of science fiction not particularly weighed down with science, in which ordinary men and women went about the struggles of their lives." In some technology news, IPv6 officially went live on Wednesday, according to an article from BGR. Several major ISPs and tech companies have officially enabled IPv6 addresses for their products and services, including AT&T, Google, Facebook, Cisco, Comcast, and Yahoo. For uninitiated, IPv6 is the next generation internet layer protocol that was designed by the Internet Engineering Task Force to recreate a virtually limitless number of new IP addresses once the world has run out of addresses on the most widely used internet layer protocol, IPv4. While IPv4 has a fixed limit of around 4 billion IP addresses, IPv6 has exponentially more, on the magnitude of around 340 billion. At any rate, the Internet Society is hosting a virtual IPv6 launch party. They did the launch party on Wednesday, actually, complete with video tributes to the new protocol from tech bigwigs such as Cisco CEO John Chambers. In another technology news, Google will unveil its new mapping software for the Internet and Android smartphones, according to an article from the British Broadcasting Corporation, or BBC. While it boasts 1 billion users, Google Maps has recently seen defections by some key developers and partners. Reports suggest Apple might abandon Google Maps next week at its annual developer conference called WWDC. This suggests Apple may announce its own mapping application to replace Google Maps on its smartphones and tablets. To counteract any negative publicity, Google executives held a media event on Wednesday in San Francisco to preview new mapping features and trumpet a decade of achievements in digital mapping, including the use of satellites, aerial, and street-level views. Among the standout features were 3D enhancements to Google Earth, a portable device for taking street view, panoramic photos, and offline access to Google Maps on Android phones. According to Brian McKellen, Vice President of Engineering for Google Maps, he says that the new Google Map program is expected to be much more than finding a way home. In more technology news, Sprint is planning to offer Apple iPhone for its pay-as-you-go business by announcing a pricing structure that could change how users will be able to buy and purchase a smartphone, according to an article from the Wall Street Journal. By the end of June, Sprint's Virgin Mobile USA unit will sell a 16GB version of the latest iPhone for $649, the same price as in Apple stores, but will offer unlimited data plans without the consumer needing to agree a 2-year contract, at nearly one-third the price of plans from rival postpaid carriers. The move gives Sprint another route to sell the popular device in order to meet a $15.5 billion 4-year purchase commitment to Apple. It also begins a nationwide experiment to see if customers are willing to pay a large upfront price for a sophisticated phone in exchange for lower monthly service costs. Major postpaid carriers like AT&T and Verizon Wireless offer the phones for hundreds of dollars less than its retail price, but make up the money, in some, by locking their customer into 2-year data plans. The carriers have been looking for ways to end or reduce the subsidies they pay smartphone makers. Last week, Leap Wireless International Incorporated said it would start selling the device with prepaid service on its Cricket Wireless network, but that would only make it available to 20% of Americans. The Virgin iPhone will be available nationwide at Radio Shack Corp, Best Buy Corporation, and online. In some government news, despite the improvements made in the U.S. economy, job growth is warning some economists who are afraid the economy could be in trouble, but one economist, Bernanke, is not one of those guys, according to an article from the Associated Press. The Federal Reserve Chief sketched a hopeful outlook in testimony to the congressional panel Thursday and said no signals that the Fed would take further steps soon to aid the economy. Bernanke acknowledged that the Europe's debt crisis posed risks to the U.S. financial markets. He also noted that U.S. unemployment remains high at 8.2%, and he said the Fed is prepared to take steps to boost the U.S. economy if it weakens. But he said federal officials still need to study the most recent economic trends, including job growth. For now, Bernanke said he foresees moderate growth this year. He says he's mindful that all that could change if Europe's crisis quickly worsened or U.S. job growth stalled. Bernanke told the Joint Economic Committee, as always, the Federal Reserve remains prepared to take actions as needed to protect the U.S. financial system and economy in the event that financial stresses escalate. Bernanke told the Joint Economic Committee, as always, the Federal Reserve remains prepared to take action as needed to protect the U.S. financial system and economy in the event that financial stresses escalate. The Fed could not buy more bonds to try to further reducing the long-term interest rates, which might encourage more borrowing and spending, or it could extend its plan to keep short-term rates near zero beyond late 2014 until an even later date. But most economics don't expect a major announcement at the Fed's next policy meeting, which takes place on June 19th through 20th, despite signals this week from some other Fed members in favor of considering further action. For one thing, long-term U.S. interest rates have already touched record lows. Even if rates drop further, analysts say they might provide little benefit for the economy. They say it's unlikely that many businesses and consumers who are borrowing now at super low rates would do so if rates decline a bit more. And Bernanke could face pressure not to pursue further stimulus before the November election because such steps could be perceived as helping President Barack Obama win re-election. Obama's Republican opponent Mitt Romney argued in television interviews last week saying that the Fed's stimulate effects have really run their course. In some suspense news, several websites has got their passwords hacked, including some unpopular websites including LinkedIn, eHarmony, and Last.fm, according to an article from NBC News. With LinkedIn, eHarmony, and Last.fm all investigating password leaks, the author of a popular password hash algorithm is urging websites that have more than 50,000 passwords to stop using his program, known as MD5Crypt. Paul Henley Camp wrote a blog post Thursday telling people the MD5Crypt password scrambler was created in 1995 by yours truly and was, back then, a sufficiently strong protection for passwords. I consider it no longer safe for any use. As the author of MD5Crypt, I implore everyone to migrate to a stronger password scrambler without undue delay. Since 1995, increased computing power means that the algorithm is prone to brute force attacks as DES-based Unix crypt was back in 1995. 88-character password can be found in a couple of days, according to a Danish software developer. It appears that such brute force attacks are what may have happened at the three social sites, and while none of them have gone into details about the incidents, Camp put out a plea to other large websites to discard his well-used password algorithm, which he says has outlived its usefulness. In some political news, Republicans are pouncing on Obama's great private sector, according to an article from ABC News. Mitt Romney and his GOP allies pounced on President Obama's declaration Friday that the private sector is doing fine, suggesting that the president's comments are more proof that he's out of touch with the economy's economic struggles. Within minutes of Obama's remarks at a White House morning news conference, the Romney campaign and Republican National Committee launched a full-court assist slamming the president, an effort led by Romney himself. Speaking at a rally in Council Bluffs, Iowa, Romney characterized Obama as divorced from reality when it comes to the economy. Romney said that I think he's defining what it means to be detached and out of touch with American people, according to him. For the president of the United States to stand up and say the private sector is doing fine, it's going to go down in history. It's an extraordinary miscalculation and misunderstanding by a president who is out of touch. Sensing that Obama's words could be the kind of major political gaffe that might come to haunt his re-election bid, the GOP quickly moved into motion in hopes of gaining political advantage. On Capitol Hill, House Speaker John Boehner and his Deputy Major Whip Eric Cantor held a press conference trashing Obama's doing fine comment. At the same time, dozens of GOP lawmakers and candidates around the country issued president releases highlighting the disagreement with Obama's sentiment. In some sports news, the champion of the Kentucky Derby and a Preakness Stakes, I'll Have Another, is out of the upcoming horse racing event, sadly. Belmont Stakes, according to an article from the USA Today. Derby Preakness winner will lead the Belmont Stakes post parade with jockey Mario Gutierrez aboard rather than participating in the Belmont Stakes. As trainer Doug O'Neill and owner J. Paul Redemit routed the colt out and barn 2 at Belmont to show the horse was not crippled, hundreds of press, photographers, and cameramen crushed close to get a glimpse of the horse trying to replace affirmed as the last horse to win the Kentucky Derby, Preakness, and Belmont. According to old Neil, he made a comment saying, "We had such an amazing run, for me taking 3 buses to go to San Antonio at age 10 and be here to try to make history. It was unanimous to retire him. It's such a bummer." Finally, in some celebrity news, Lindsey Lohan has been sent to a hospital yesterday where she collided with her car with a big ass dump truck while she was driving out of control on Pacific Coast Highway. People don't recklessly drive on the road. It's bad. Finally, I have a joke of the day, which is, what is Switzerland made out of? It's made out of Swiss cheese. And now it's time for the question of the day. If you are an Android user and you are planning to switch to the Apple's iPhone, where will you get it from? Leave in the comments down below, and I'll see you next Friday.